few minutes, we shall be talking about breast cancer in young women. And as we know that this entity is, much more common in this part of the world. And many times, so much attention is not given to this entity, and that's why it is important to address it appropriately. There are not only challenges related to oncological outcomes, but there are certain other challenges also this woman face. So, what is essentially the definition of young age or very young age? So, essentially, it is less than 40 years, what we call it as young breast cancer, and less than 30 years, which is defined as very young age breast cancer, and they constitutes around 6.5% young breast cancer and only 0.6% very young breast cancer entirely. So incidence remains stable in this age group over the years. This slide will show is showing the same. So you can see here in this picture that 35 to 13, less than 39 years, there is around 6.5% incidence. This slide is showing that incidence of breast cancer is stable in women in less than 45 years. You will see across all different eras, and while there is decrease in more than 50 years old after 2002. But there is no change in this particular age group. What about the prognosis and outcome among these young women with breast cancer? And is young age a negative prognostic factor? So there is inferior prognosis, which is seen in this picture. Age per se is found to be associated with an aggressive course as far as the breast cancer outcomes are concerned. So this slide is showing the survival based on the biology of the disease, and we can see here that in luminal B specifically the difference as far as the age is concerned. So this picture is showing that overall survival in all stage 4 patients using less than 35 years of age criteria, and it is showing that less than 35 versus more than 35, there was not much difference. So less than 40 in comparison to all other age groups was found to be significant, but not between the less than 35 and more than 35. So prognosis and adjuvant treatment effects in selected breast cancer subtypes of very young women with operable breast cancer. And here we can see that disease-free survival as well as overall survival, there is a difference. P-value significant. This slide is again showing the DFNs and OS according to molecular subtypes, and again we can see that in luminal B it is most prominent. So this slide is displaying the disease-free survival in according to selected adjuvant therapies in luminal B type of breast cancer according to age at diagnosis. And we can see that hazards of that 95% confidence interval for luteinizing hormone, releasing hormone, or tamoxifen alone versus LHRH plus tamoxifen obtained from multivariate Cox proportional hazard regression model adjusted for proliferative index, peritumoral vascular invasion, tumor size, nodal status, and HER2 overexpressions. So this the first is showing for the less than 35 years, while the other one is showing for 35 and 50 years. And we can see the difference. What about the screening? So cancer syndromes and breast cancer in young women, these are the major syndromic associations. The most prominent one is hereditary breast and ovarian cancer, which is associated with BRCA1 and 2. Leaf-Romani, that is TP53. Cowgen, that is PCHEN. Hereditary diffuse gastric cancer, CDH1 association, and Peutz-Jeghers, that is STK11. So these are the most common syndromes which can be genetically linked. About the hereditary breast and ovarian cancer, so BRCA1 and 2 mutations in 2 to 4%, and more than 10% when the breast cancer occurs in less than 35 years. BRCA1 leads to 50 to 85% risk of breast cancer, and also happens in younger age, while 40 to 60% risk of second primary cancers. 35 to 45% risk of ovarian cancers, and also there is existing risk for prostate and Hodgkin's lymphoma. So why one should test BRCA1-2 mutations? They essentially guide decisions about systemic therapy, because there is evidence to suggest that platinum and PARP inhibitors work in this population. Also, there are screening and follow-up approaches. There can be consideration for preventive risk reduction surgeries, and also defined potential risk to family members. Very, very important. Once we found that somebody is BRCA positive, we need to really see what are the family implications, and we need to send the entire family members to genetic clinic for the proper counseling. So screening in very young population, the recommendation suggests that only for those with high risk, that is 20 to 25% lifetime risk, these are the BRCA carriers, Li-Fraumeni, Cowden, Fanconi anemia, first degree relative with breast cancer, not tested so far for BRCA mutations, and previously chest irradiation, maybe because they were treated for Hodgkin's lymphoma or any other condition. What are the unique disease characteristics in these young patients? So adverse prognostic features appear more frequently in very young. Breast cancer under 35 appears to be an independent adverse prognostic factor, and high levels of rank ligand and c-KIT appear to be strongly correlated with young age, independent of breast cancer subtype. So prognosis and adjuvant treatment effects in selected breast cancer subtypes of very young women with operable breast cancer. Here we can see with respect to grade, with respect to estrogen receptor status, Ki67, HER2/neu, the young breast cancer appears aggressive. So breast cancer subtypes in adolescent and young adult women, the proportion, this is showing the subtypes among Californian women by age group. So hormone receptor positive and HER2 negative, hormone receptor positive and HER2 positive, as well as hormone receptor negative and HER2 positive patients and triple negatives are shown. And we can see here that triple negatives are predominant in in younger age group women, while hormone receptor positive and HER2 negative are proportionally less. You can see that in 40 to 49 years, the hormone receptor positive constitutes around 64%, while in 50 plus 72%, and they are only 49% in this younger woman. While TNBC, they are 23% around, whereas in around 40 to 49, it's 14%, and 50 above, they are only 11%. So triple negative, which is an aggressive subtype, they are more common in this age group. So this is slide is showing the other two studies by Azim et al. And by Andres et al. And they again show that triple negative population is more common in younger age group women, while hormone positive in older age group women. And this corresponds to luminal type. The hormone receptor positive corresponds to luminal type cancers, while here triple negatives, the most common one was basal types. So what are the unique molecular characteristics? So age-specific difference in clinical pathological features plus mRNA expression. So you can see here that women aged less than 45 and women more than 65. So this is a geriatric group, whereas this is a younger age group. So ER-alpha mRNA expression, ER-beta mRNA expression, PR mRNA expression, and HER2 mRNA expression, as well as EGFR mRNA expression is variable in these two groups. This is the pictorial depiction of the same, the statistically significant difference. So what is the unique molecular characteristics? So gene set enrichment analysis shows that 367 gene sets preferentially expressed in young woman's tumor, mTOR pathway, hypoxia, BRCA1, stem cell, apoptosis, HTEC. So multiple oncogenic signaling pathways, including MYC, E2F, RAS, beta-catenin, AKT, P53, PTEN, MAP kinase pathways. So there is no common gene sets identified among older women's tumors. Now, the $100 question. Should treatment option for young women be more aggressive? Because we have seen that these women show phenotypically and genotypically more aggressive features. So about the local treatment, young age is associated with increased risk of locoregional recurrence. However, survival is similar for breast conserving surgery versus mastectomy. So the loud and clear message is that age is not a contraindication to breast conservation. Many women in the clinics, they come when they're young, they said that we are very worried for recurrence, and that's why you please remove the breast for both, and at times they say remove both the breast. So they should be counseled that if they're stage wise they're optimally breast conservation surgery can be offered, then they are candidate. Just merely because they are younger, they should not be subjected for mastectomy. Mortality after bilateral mastectomy compared with other surgical treatment for breast cancer. This is showing the comparison between the unilateral mastectomy versus breast conserving surgery and bilateral mastectomy, and we can see that the outcomes are equivalent. So 20 years predicted overall survival in 40 years old woman with stage 1 ER positive breast cancer. This is a slide picture you can see. What about the systematic therapy approaches? So basic approach for AYA population is similar to older women and chemotherapeutics. The main principles are to consider when deciding on regimen, that what is the extent of the disease, that is a TNM staging or intrinsic subtype. What are the potential toxicities, immediate and long term. So immediate, there are usually fewer comorbidities, and long-term survivorship issue like fertility, premature menopause, etc. has to be considered, and they are much more relevant in this population. Standard therapies, adjuvant like anthracycline, taxane backbones, then later on in the hormones tamoxifen, if they are hormone receptor positive, and trastuzumab and HER2 positive women, addition of pertuzumab, etc. when there is locally advanced cancers. In metastatic setting, there are single agent chemotherapeutics in sequence preferred. There's controversial data about bevacizumab from all the trials, but trastuzumab in HER2 positive patients is very robust data. Again, pertuzumab can be combined. In second line, there is data for TDM1, and there are many more molecules which are now appearing in the armamentarium. Hormone therapy in endocrine receptive positive disease. So generally, we should use the valid treatment strategies which are proven well, and investigational strategies are less preferred because of the higher life expectancy of these age group women. So anthracycline and taxane is the backbone, and young women should be considered for neoadjuvant chemotherapy. BRCA1 and BRCA2 and other evolving targeted factors may influence adjuvant treatment choice preferentially in these young women. So this slide is showing that there is mortality improvement in women who are less than 50 years of age with adjuvant chemotherapy. And this slide is showing the neoadjuvant chemotherapy and PCR rates for TNBC with comparison to non-TNBC. And as we know that being TNBC is a factor which increases PCR rate, and it is corroborating with survival as well. So this is the triple negative paradox, the primary tumor chemosensitivity of breast tumor subtypes. So triple negative tumors are generally more chemosensitive, and among these triple negative women, in general, they are a negative prognostic marker in comparison to the other subgroups of breast cancer. However, among the triple negatives, those who achieve PCR, they survive much more than those who do not get a PCR. So that one must remember. PCR is a surrogate marker in triple negative breast cancer women. This slide is showing the PCR rates overall and in the subgroups. So neoadjuvant chemotherapy, when it is offered to young women, there are high PCR rates in TNBC as well as in relatively high in other groups as well. And PCR is associated with survival. So this picture is showing in among all the age groups, but you can see that in triple negative there is highest association. Also in HER2 positive there is good correlation in this regard. About the hormonal treatment, so the role of ovarian function suppression and optimal duration of endocrine therapy, which is often debatable. So this is this slide is showing the famous trial of Goserelin for ovarian production during breast cancer adjuvant therapy, and it was found that administration of Goserelin with chemotherapy appeared to protect against ovarian failure and reducing the risk of early menopause and improving prospects of fertility. And the long-term data is also available, and it has shown the consistent promise. And in many centers, this practice is being followed in the women where we have fertility preserving concerns. So there is, even in these trials, we have seen that there is even survival advantage, which was not the primary endpoint, but so at least the safety part of this kind of therapy is ensured. That if we try to do give GnRH analogs to avoid impairment in infertility, then we can even increase the survival also. That is the data suggest. About the therapy duration. So all the time, first the hormonal therapy in the form of tamoxifen came, then aromatase inhibitors came, then comes the duration of whether it is 2 years, whether it's 5 years. Now there's data for 10 years. So extended therapy has shown benefit, but every everything which is having effects having side effects also. So we have to carefully weigh the risk benefit ratio, and perhaps the most benefit is in women who are having high risk for recurrence, and we have to judiciously choose, because nothing is without side effects, nothing is holy water. So even if you are choosing extended therapy, and that's where you want to give more hormones for longer duration, to whom you should offer, it has to be a careful decision with discussion to patient and family. Similarly, if you want to do ovarian function suppression over and above the hormonal drugs, so it is more efficacious. But again, this abrupt menopause induction by means of OFS leads to a lot of complications, and one must really weigh the risk benefit ratio all the time in clinics when we are deciding for it. So this is the text and soft data with regard to ovarian function suppression. And exemestane with ovarian function suppression improved survival, DFS. However, again, there were side effects which we must consider all the time when we are choosing this. In uh, uh, in these trials, there are 50%, almost 50% rate of depressions. So mood swings are pretty common, sleeplessness, quality of life. All the quality of life between the two arms were not majorly affected or different, but there are quite a lot of side effects related to um, skin related, mood swings related, bone health related, as well as sexual health related. So all those things should be considered when we are deciding. What are the fertility preservation options? So in a newly diagnosed patient, patient should be given a choice to meet fertility preservation consultant. And if patient is not interested in fertility preservation or very high risk tumor, then you can immediately plan treatment. However, if there's interest and favorable tumor biology, then ovarian tissue can be harvested. Pre-treatment laparoscopic oophorectomy can be done. Cryopreservation of the ovarian tissue for future implantation can be done. Emergency ovarian stimulation can be done, and egg retrieval followed by in vitro fertilization and or embryo or oocyte cryopreservation is another good option. GnRH analogs and chemotherapy if we are positive, and provide alternatives, adoption, surrogate, donor, egg, IVF, etc. So there are a couple of options depending on what situation, what kind of tumor, what kind of host, and what kind of circumstances you are. So this slide is showing the incidence of amenorrhea with the regimen, and you can see in the routine standard anthracycline based regimen, there is around 50 to 60% patient with developed amenorrhea, and even AC kind of a regimen, ACT kind of a regimen leads to 70% chances of amenorrhea. And also it is age dependent. So women who are nearing their menopause, they are having high chances of premature menopause, and even their prior ovarian reserve also is one of the determinant that whether this woman will develop permanent preterm menopause or not. So this is the algorithm for fertility preservation in a young woman with breast cancer. So uh, um, so will adjuvant therapy be given? If the answer is yes, then sufficient time to perform ovarian stimulation. Is it available? Yes. Whether the patient has a partner, Then we can do embryo cryo with letrozole stimulation, which is having a high success rate. If there is no partner, then oocyte cryo or embryo cryo with donor sperm later. And if adjuvant therapy is not really planned, will the patient be on tamoxifen for 5 years? That is a question. If the answer is yes, then we have to see what is the age. If it is more than 33, then advise on age-related decline in fertility. And FP is recommended, especially if patient desire more than one child. If age is less than 32, may not need fertility preservation. If the patient will not be on tamoxifen, age is more than 33, then advise on age-related infertility if patient has to be delayed for more than 3 years or desires more than one child. So this is a nutshell algorithm. These are the very important issues, and once we are sensitized about these, then we will think in that perspective and try all the means so that we can provide options to our patients as suit to them, and this will really help them to come back to normalcy. So this slide is showing the DFS in women with pregnancy after year positive breast cancer, and median follow-up from the time of conception is 4.7 years, and it has shown safety with regard to survival. So early pregnancy is not detrimental, and this is again showing data. This is an interesting picture wherein the first reported clinical pregnancy following a heterotropic grafting of cryopreserved ovarian tissue in a woman after bilateral oophorectomy. So these kind of endeavors really give us a promise, and we must keep ourselves open for all the ideas. About the sexuality and breast cancer, so it is prime time for young patients. Many times there are stigmas, especially in this part of the world, and people do not discuss openly in the clinics. And even women, they don't come forward and discuss with their doctors or other assistants. So we have to actually ask leading questions many times if we really want to know what is the status, and you get alarming answers and status. So pharmacological treatments can improve in sexual dysfunction components. So there are non-hormonal options which are like flibanserin, the sildenafil, bremelanotide, pentolamine, prostaglandins, bupropion, L-arginine. So there are several options available. We have to be aware about these and carefully choose which one suits to which patient. About the menopausal symptoms in young breast cancer patients, which occur due to abrupt induction of menopause due to either chemotherapy or hormonal therapy or combination, and over and above that, when we also practice ovarian function suppression. So generally non-hormonal medication are chosen, like antidepressants, gabapentin, clonidine for hot flushes, topical lubricants and moisturizer for vaginal health. Behavioral strategies and intervention, they really help to a lot of patients, like exercise, yoga, acupuncture, cold packs, dressing and layers, etc. So psychoeducation, cognitive behavioral therapy, and individual or couple counseling. So again, we have to be open for these ideas. About the bone health, so chemotherapy causes accelerated bone loss, and use of also if you're giving aromatase inhibitor along with ovarian function suppression to some women, that again will leads to problem with bone health. So use of bisphosphonates and denosumab in young women with breast cancer should be carefully seen and selected, although we need furthermore validation in this regard, that which one to choose when. So here upon I would like to conclude that breast cancer in young women is different. It is essentially a challenge between the two steps to safeguard the oncologic outcomes, as well as there's other issues, especially including to the sexual quality of life, fertility preservation, there's psychosomatic issues, the familial balance, the kids. There are so many other things which one has to balance when decide, and also that they have to live a long life after this. So what will be the late effects? So there are new data to incorporate into the care of a young woman with breast cancer, and we have to be vigilant about it. Breast cancer at a young age is associated with unique risk factors, adverse clinical pathological features, and poorer prognosis. Genomic studies illustrate a rich biology among breast cancers arising in a younger host and may offer novel therapeutic opportunities. The prognostic effect of age varies with tumor subtypes. Local and systemic treatment should be considered similarly heavily for young as well as older women. And the rising data on hormonal therapy provide more options on endocrine therapy. The armamentarium is really widened with regard to hormone therapy. Now we know that CDK4/6 inhibitors, they have also creep in, and with the ribociclib data of overall survival benefit, we are having armamentarium which is really widened. Young women are more likely to suffer both physically as well as emotionally, and we must consider the balance to both the aspects all the time. Sexual health, body image, fertility concerns need to be addressed appropriately. So, to conclude, I would say the benefit of experience is not in treating everyone, but in treating wisely. And at the end, I would like to sum up with an invitation to all of you. We are having a second annual Congress of Immuno-Oncology Society of India, which will be on 30th, 31st October and 1st November. And, this time we are having academic treat. We are having 15 international speakers who will be joining virtually on this platform, including the Professor James Ellison, who got Nobel prize for physiology and medicine to discover CTLA4. There is Professor Volchok, who is pioneer in keynote trials. There are Professor Rakesh Jain, who is a pioneer in microenvironment. Dr. Solange Peters, who is a ESMO president and lead thoracic oncology in immunotherapy. Dr. John V. Hannon, who is again ESMO immuno-oncology lead, and several others. So this registration is free of cost, and you need to do bigger because there will be limited numbers. So first come, first serve. So please register for this meeting, and there is a website which is active. And also, we IOSI members, there are many opportunities and benefit for that. So with this note, thank you very much again. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to take.